If you or someone you know has diabetes, you may have built up an extra supply of test strips and lancets. That's where we come in. We'll buy the supplies that you don't need and resell them to those in need to prevent waste. Help us make diabetes management more affordable. Visit us at teststripswithaz.com.
All right, we have Cody Brundage on the show. He returns to action December 14th at Lights Out Championship 6. He's going to take on 28-fight veteran Erick Lozano for the LOC middleweight title in the main event. Cody, how are you?
I'm great, man. Excited for the fight. Coming down to the last 3 weeks, so I'll have like 2 more hard weeks of training and then like 1 week of just kind of relaxing and, get my body right. But
so this is a pretty good opportunity. 4 fights in your professional career. You made the jump to pro this year. 3 wins, 3 finishes. Now you're fighting for your first title. Life's pretty good right now, isn't it?
Yeah, everything's good, man. Super quick. I think, 4 fights, like you said. 4th fight's going to be for a pro title against a guy who's got 30 fights. So definitely wasting no time.
We were talking a little bit off air about this, but the MMA run that you started less than 2 years ago. I mean, this has just been crazy. You've had... Yeah, obviously there's been ups and downs, more ups than downs though, but that's obviously in the amateur level, that's the time you develop and you grow and you do all those things. You've been on a great run as of late. Are things, in your opinion, just falling into place and clicking for you right now?
I think, yeah, very much so, but also I think my amateur career, some of those ups and downs, like you said, amateurs where you develop. I feel like a lot of people don't take advantage of the amateur scene. I think they just try to, build a record. They're 20-0 amateurs and they go out and they fight pros and they're not ready for those fights. I fought guys as amateurs that are tougher than most pro fights that most people have. I fought Dalton Rosa up a weight class and that kid's in Bellator, killing people in Bellator now. So I took my lumps, some losses as an amateur, but it was, in the long run, I think it was probably the best thing for my career. I got those hard grind type fights out of the way against upper level competition and they didn't affect anything that matters really. It's like your report card in elementary school. It doesn't matter. We're trying to prepare for what matters, which is my pro career. So I think taking those lumps in my amateur career was a huge positive for me. And I think people should take more advantage of the opportunities as an amateur.
I completely agree with what you're saying. It reminds me, obviously they're 2 totally different things, but it's like playing poker. It's like playing Texas Hold'em. You can play with your friends and you can take all their money and that's great. But when you go to the casino and you play against these other guys, they're going to take your money and you weren't ready for it. So at least this way, you're ready for it. You're ready for the pro level because you've taken on some of these tougher fights and gotten that experience. So I got to ask, man, this just started for you like 2 years ago. How did this journey into this crazy, wacky sport begin for you? I mean, you're 25 years old. You were 23 when you made your amateur debut. What about the sport drew you to it, and what made you think, like, you know what, I could do this. I'll just fight people in a cage.
Right. So I wrestled my whole life from 6 years old. Got into college for wrestling. Had some good success there, and I ended up making the blood round, which is top 12 in the country twice. And I want to be an All-American. That's top 8. I was 1 round away from that. And I think not achieving that goal was like pushed me to compete more. And my mom, she's not a fan of fighting. Obviously, she doesn't want to see me in the cage. She's supportive, but she's just, always worried, always nervous. She's like, do CrossFit or do something else to compete. And I'm like, it's just not, there's not many things like for people that have wrestled or done any combat sports, there's not anything like it. There's no feeling like getting in the cage or getting on a mat or just you one-on-one with another person, all your hard work versus all their hard work, and you see what happens. So that really is what drew me to the sport, and what kept me in the sport was there's so many areas to get better. With wrestling, I kind of maxed out my level of potential in wrestling, I think, because I'd done it so long. There wasn't much more to learn. There wasn't many more ways for me to get better. In MMA, there's jiu-jitsu, there's striking, and there's 8 million different kinds of striking that people argue about what's best. And then there's also fight IQ, and there's so many things that go into it that I just thought it was something that I could excel at. And I was a huge fan of the sport since I was 16 years old, watching guys and trying to break down fights with my buddies and just loved every part of it. I loved the interviews. I'd watch how they talk, how they carried themselves outside and inside the cage. That I wouldn't do that, or I would do this. And now, I always said, I'm going to take a fight. I'm going to take a fight. I'm going to take a fight. And then finally, like the day I took my amateur debut, I'm like, holy shit, I'm taking a fight. This is crazy. You know what I mean? And then from there on, it's just been, I thought I had good potential in the sport. And I think that even more now, confidence is high. So yeah, I think that's kind of what kept me in it and what draws me to it every day. I enjoy it, you know.
Do you go back and sort of relive that first fight right before you have like these upcoming fights? Like, do you go back and think about how far you've come from that first fight?
It's funny, you know, before any of my fights, I think at least once a camp, I get like feeling almost invincible. You'll hear fighters talk about, oh, I'm invincible, no one can beat me. And whenever I feel like that, I'll go back and watch my last loss that I had. Just to remind myself, not because I'm like, oh, you suck or nothing like that, but just to remind myself, like, hey, you got to get better. But yeah, it was cool. That first fight was insane. You know, a 12-second knockout. You don't know you can knock somebody out until you do it, because you're not doing that in the gym to your teammates typically. So you're like, can I? I don't know what's going to happen when we actually get in this cage with this person who wants to hurt me. And I jumped in there and just closed my eyes and threw. And the guy, I open my eyes and the guy's on the ground, the fight's over. I'm like, well, I guess I can do this, you know? So yeah, it was cool. I'd play it back sometimes, but, and then I had my second pro fight was like a 12-second knockout. I was like, this is crazy. You know, this sport's insane. You train for 8 weeks for a 12-second fight and you're happy about it. No other sport are you really like busting it for weeks and weeks and weeks, putting in all this time and effort. And the quicker you're out of there, the better, you know?
And the sport 5 years from now is going to look totally different. Like, there's going to be new things. Like who knew that a calf kick would be like the new jab? Like, that's such a devastating move now. I think that's like the first move people should learn when they get into the gym for the first time, is learning how to perfect a calf kick, because it's such a dangerous weapon.
For sure, and it takes like one or two good ones, and it completely alters a fight. I was talking to my buddy, so my wife, she's a professional fighter, obviously. She's doing private lessons with this kid now who is just a phenom. His name's Dominic. He's out of our gym. He's like 11 years old. He's a phenom at jiu-jitsu. Now he's starting boxing. I'm like, yo, I got about 7 years, and this kid turns 18. I'm done, because I don't want any part of this kid. Because that's the thing now, you know, MMA is so big. All these kids is, you know, when I was a kid, you played football, or you might have wrestled, or you did baseball. Now kids are boxing and they're doing jiu-jitsu, and the sport has just come such a long way. You know, it's funny, we look back at like Chuck Liddell or people like that, and no disrespect to them, but in today's MMA, they would not be near what they were back then. You know what I mean? And now that's just going to continue to evolve like that. It's going to be crazy, because one day we're going to be saying, John Jones nowadays would be getting, you know what I mean? Which is crazy to think, because no one's on that level. But the sport has evolved, and it's getting so big that these 10, 11-year-old kids are coming up, and there's just going to be phenoms in the sport.
Look at like the NBA and the NFL right now. Like, look how athletic these guys are. It's insane. It's nuts. It's nuts watching a 375-pound offensive lineman run a 4.840 when I can't even run a 4.840. It's insane. Dude.
It is so crazy. Like, we'll be watching fights, and I'm like, and I just have a thought. I'm like, dude, imagine if like LeBron James was just like, you know what, I'm done with NBA. I think I'm gonna take up MMA, and I'm just gonna learn for 2-3 years. Like, are you kidding? It's scary, dude. It's scary. I mean, almost like, you know, like you look at guys like Greg Hardy, that level of athlete, you know, that kind of, you get a bunch of those in MMA. That's a scary scene. That just train and train and train, and, you know, high level athletes. And that's what's going to happen, because it's going to become, it has already, and it's going to continue to be a sport that people want to pursue. So
and you'll be right there in the thick of all of it. Once they all start coming, you'll be right there. So walk me through like a typical weekday, because I spoke to your wife, Amanda Bobby Cooper, before her last fight, and obviously she talked a lot about you in that conversation. But, you know, she says that not only are you a fighter, but you work construction as well. You're up super early in the morning, and you're basically nonstop before, you know, Joes like me even get out of bed. What is a typical day like for you?
So a typical day, I get up around 5 o'clock. I go out to my job. I do construction. So right now in Michigan, it's 30 degrees. We're working outside, and it is not the most fun thing I've ever done. But I work there from leave at 5. I'll be home by 4, and I pick her up. We go to the gym together, train from like 5 till 8:30, go home, cook food, maybe meal prep, and maybe get like a TV show or something in, maybe play some video games for like an hour, and then bed. You know, I don't have a ton of free time. I was talking to someone about it the other day. I think it was always this debate at our gym about like, well, you work, so it like puts you back almost, you know, because you don't have as much time to train. But what I've found, I think, is that people who have more free time take training for granted more, I think. Because I got all the time in the world. You know, I have to get in from 5 till 8:30, or I won't train for the day, because I don't have any other time to get in. If you have all day, you're like, well, I'll go at 10, and then it gets to 10 o'clock. Like, I don't fucking right now. I'll go at noon. It gets to noon. I'll go at 3. I'll just go to class tonight. You know what I mean? So I think working makes me appreciate the training time I have, because work is work, and I don't feel like fighting is a job. Whereas it is, and I do have big goals in the sport, but I don't feel like it's my job. I feel like it's my hobby. It's something I like to do. I'm excited to be at the gym. I'm happy to be there. I'm never like, oh, I'm burnt out. You hear that a lot. I'm burnt out. I never feel burnt out because it's what I choose to do for fun. So my job is a big compliment, I think, to my fighting.
I think there's a lot of up-and-coming fighters who are with you on that one. I was speaking to this guy, Derek Scott, who was actually on NBC's The Titan Games. He was the runner-up, and he talked about like his schedule. He's a lawyer, works full-time, has his own law firm, and then he trains like when he can. He needs that in his life. He needs to be on the go because, like you said, it makes him appreciate things a little bit more. So I think there's a lot of other fighters kind of in the same position as you are that agree with that. Now, with your goals and stuff, even if like you make it to the UFC, that's great. I mean, obviously the paychecks are get a little bit bigger, but you're not like totally comfortable at that point. I mean, your wife's been there before, but do you see yourself like, do you want to just fight full time, or do you kind of need that sort of extra job to keep you on that path of not taking it for granted?
I think I'll still work. I like my job. I like construction. I like working with my hands. I like learning things. I like the guys I work with. They make it's fun. I do enjoy going to work. As much as work is work, I do enjoy it. And I've had jobs that I hate. So I think I'll continue to work, but it will be more like with construction, it's kind of good because I could take off a month, say, hey, guys, I'm not going to be here for a month. So if they tell, in the UFC, they give you 8 weeks. I could train and work for 4 weeks. And then for the last 4 weeks of my camp, say, hey, I'm not going to be in this month because I got this big fight come up, and they're super understanding. I actually work for my wife's dad's construction company, and so he kind of, if anyone could understand the rigors of fighting, he's probably the best boss for that because of his daughter, and they're all super supportive. They all want to come out to my fights, which is cool. But yeah, I think I keep working. I think it does keep me appreciative. I think it does kind of quell that idea of I'm getting burnt out because I don't ever feel that way. I love it. I love going to the gym every day. I love working hard. I wish I had more time at home with my wife. That's probably my only, drawback because it is like an hour. But, we got the weekends, and I always tell her, I'm like, well, when I get the UFC, we'll have more time. We'll travel. We'll do, So that's kind of like a good motivator too,
Amanda had an awesome fight in her last fight. She was vicious. I mean, that was a vicious finish to that fight. And when we had our conversation, she told me at first that she was a bit jealous of the success you were having early on because you, at this point in your career, you can essentially control your own destiny. And in addition, like, she's been through a lot herself as a fighter, like being in the UFC, being on Tough, sort of thrust in there right away. You can kind of take things a different path, take your time, get the right fight, so forth and so on. How beneficial has her support and her experience been, not just as a wife, but as like a fellow fighter and a teammate for your career?
Oh, it's everything. It really is. Like, she is there for everything. She's there for training. She's there for home, and she plays every role great. She's a great coach. She's a great wife. She is not the best cook. I'm just kidding. But no, she's great. And, for the longest time, I signed with Iridium recently, and Iridium's great. They've done tremendous things for me. But before I signed with them, it was just me and her. We were picking, most of my fights were me and her picking my fights. And she is on me, like, keeps me level-headed, where I'm like, oh, I want to get the UFC. She's like, why rush it? You'll get there. She tells me, you'll get there. But why do you need to be in there at 4-0? Why do you need to be in there at 5-0? Get in there at 8-0, and feel really ready. Because it's not, and sometimes I struggle with that. I'm like, I got to get there. I got to get there. And that's not necessarily true. She's like, I got there, and I wasn't ready when I got there. And now I have to claw my way back to get there. So seeing that, I think a lot of fighters are like, as soon as UFC calls, I have to take it. As soon as Contender calls, I have to take it. And she's kind of made me realize that's not necessarily the case. Be smart, because they're not going to go anywhere. If they want you at 5-0, they'll want you at 8-0. And I think having her and the experience she's had and seeing the way her career played out, because it was disappointing. I know how talented she is. So it was disappointing to watch her go against absolute killers and come out on the wrong side and then get let go, and now she has to battle back when, she's at that level. She has the talent to be at that level. So, it is a good model for how to base my career based off what she did. So it's huge. It's important.
Now you get Erick Lozano on December 14th. And I'm going to preface this. At the beginning of this interview, I said you're fighting a guy with X number of fight experience. More times than not, when a broadcaster says that, you're talking about a guy with a losing record. Now, this is a little bit different for a couple of reasons because, one, he's been in there with some big names. Been in there with guys like Riggs and Terry Martin. But if you look at his record, yeah, he's 13-15 as a pro, but he's 9-3 in his last 12, and he's got 5 straight wins with 5 straight finishes. So clearly, this is a don't let the record fool you type of fighter, right?
Right, for sure. I mean, he's definitely a veteran. He's tough. And the thing about guys with that many fights is you're not going to put them in a position that they're not okay with. I think young fighters can get put in positions they haven't seen before in the gym or in a fight, and then they get flustered and it completely alters the fight. I'm not going to put Lozano in any position he's never been put in before. But what I can do and what I think I bring to the table is you look at those last 5 guys he's beat, those guys aren't on my level. Nothing against those guys, but they're just not on my level. They aren't. If I fought all those guys, I would finish all of those guys. There's not much. I mean, anything can happen in the sport, but on paper, those guys get finished. And so I think, Eric's riding high on confidence right now. He's won, 5, 6 in a row. If he's smart, he knows I'm not like those guys. He's never fought a guy with the grappling credentials that I have, ever. He hasn't fought many guys with the size I have. He's fighting 170s who are up at 85. He's had fights lined up against guys who fought at 65. I'm an 85er through and through. I'm not going down to 170, and I fought at 205 in my career. So I just feel it'll be a different matchup for him. Not that he won't come ready. I'm just a different animal, and I don't think people really realize that until they've either trained with me or been in the cage with me. So I do respect Eric. I respect his, experience, but I think that is the only advantage he has in this fight is his experience. So if I was looking at it, I'd say, from me, I'm like, I'd rather have every advantage other than experience than have experience. I'd rather be the better striker. I'd rather be the more powerful guy. I'd rather be the better grappler and have less experience than be worse in all those areas. And I've had more fights than him. Because in high level athletics, I have a lot of experience.
This question comes up often when you see a fight between a guy with 28 pro fights and a guy with 3 fights about to fight. Like, was there any extra, convincing needed? Did the commission have any issue putting this fight together, or was it just like no problems at all?
Not that I know of. Friendo didn't say anything to me about issues. The only issue we had was Eric didn't want to take it at first. He's like, why do I want to fight that 3-0? And that's what he kept throwing out there. Why do I want to fight that 3-0? But then, I was like, well, you just fought a 1-1. You just fought a 1-2, a 2-3. The reason you want to fight 3-0 is because, like I said, I'm not the same guy that he's been fighting. It made sense to me. I wouldn't want to. You're on a 5-fight win streak. You're 9-3 in your last 12. Everything's going good for you. You got a professional title, couple professional titles. Keep riding your waves, man. But he did end up signing the contract, and I don't think there are any issues. I think a big part of that's my wrestling. In Michigan, I think if you have a credentialed background, like Dan Yates fought Joe Riggs at 1-0, and Joe Riggs has 60 fights. Right. So I think if you have that credentialed background, they're more willing to let the fight take place.
That's a good point. Is Eric a guy, being from the Michigan scene, and you've only been competing for 2 years at this point, is Eric a guy that, like, he's kind of a fixture in the Michigan area? Is he a guy that you've been paying attention to for a while? Is it kind of surprising to fight a guy like that? Like, what's your experience with him outside of signing a piece of paper that you're going to fight him?
I don't really have much experience with Eric. He is pretty well known in the area just because he's been around forever, which is cool. He's just been on the local scene for a long time. The only experience I have with him is he warmed up in the same room as Bobby before her last fight, and he was cool. There were no issues. He seemed like a fine guy. I don't have any issues with him. He always makes funny T-shirts about his opponents, so I'm waiting to see what he's gonna release for me. But yeah, no, I don't really know him that well. I've never had any bad interactions with him. Never had any good ones. Just it is what it is. I have seen his fights in person and obviously watched film on him, but I know he's well known. He does have a big following. He'll sell a lot of tickets. He'll have more people there probably than I will. But that's cool. I like being in that atmosphere kind of anyway.
God bless him. 37 years old. It's his 5th fight of 2019. Like, that is just crazy. I can't imagine fighting 5 times in a year. And I could say that because I'll be 37 in a few months. So I can say that as from one old guy to the other. But
yeah, no offense to 37-year-olds, man, but at 37, I don't want to be fighting the 25-year-old who's the next up and comer. That's if I'm 37 and that guy comes knocking, I'm like, I'm gonna pass on that one. I'll pass on that guy. Give me someone else. But, good. I mean, props to him for accepting the fight,
Absolutely. And when you think about this, the work you've been doing, how does it normally play out in your mind? Like, how do you see this thing all getting done? How do you see your hand getting raised? How do you see that belt getting wrapped around your waist?
So like I said, I think I'm better in every technical area, but I just think my grappling is too much. And it's like with striking, you can find good strikers and train with good strikers, and you'll get a good look and you can build confidence. And it's a real confidence. But with grappling, like, he's not going to find anyone to train with him that's on my level of grappling. So even if he's beating those guys in grappling, he's getting false confidence because they aren't close. You get high school wrestlers in there to wrestle you. That's good. It'll be good work. But I am a college multiple-time national qualifier with over 100 collegiate wins. Like, there's not a ton of guys out there that you can get to train with you. So if you're not training with those guys, it's a whole different feel when I get a hold of you. I think too, when your game plan is stop the takedowns and knock him out, as soon as if I go in there and take him down in 30 seconds, just say I take him down in 30 seconds, your whole world of this 8-week camp you did is shattered. For 8 weeks, you said, I'm going to stop a takedown and knock him out. And then in 30 seconds, you got taken down. I mean, mentally, that's like crippling. You're like, well, damn, I don't know what to do now. My whole plan was just I was going to knock him out. It's hard to knock someone out off your back. Not impossible, but it's not easy. So I think I'll smother him. I think he is tough. I don't think he's going to be an easy out. He's only been finished by knockout or TKO like 4 times in his career, I think. So I don't think he's an easy out, but I think I'll finish him. I think second round sub, maybe ground and pound. But yeah, the fight will go to the ground. Whether he wants it or not, I'll say it. It's going to go to the ground. And I don't know. I just don't see how he's going to deal with that. I don't think he's felt the pressure. I don't think he's really can be experiencing what I'm going to offer on fight night. So I think second round, ground and pound, second round sub, but it will be a finish.
All goes well. You win the title coming up in a couple of weeks. What's 2020 going to look like for you? You want to stay as active as possible? I mean, 4 pro fights this year. You want to try to match that, maybe even do more than that next year? Like, what's sort of the game plan and the goal set for 2020?
I want to match it at least. We'll see. Depending on how things play out. The contenders in the summer. Fighting December. Maybe try to get 1 or 2 before they start casting that. 5-6-0. You get on contender, and then hopefully you can make something happen from there. With Iridium, a lot of doors have been open. Just because they're well connected, So, yeah, I'll at least match it, if not more. I think more. I want to do more. I love fighting. Like I said, I don't cut a lot of weight. I'm always training. So, hopefully, 5-6 fights a year. That would be good for me. I'd be excited for that.
This might be a little before your time, but I always imagine Jason House has like the red bat phone in his office. Like when Contender Series rolls around, it like lights up and blinks, and he just picks it up. He's like, "What do you need? Okay, got him." And, like I feel like that's how Iridium is right now.
Yeah, those guys are amazing, man. Signing with them was one of, if not the biggest move of my career. I think just from, you hear a lot of promises. I think from people. But he literally delivered on every promise. We're going to talk weekly. We talk weekly. He checks in just to check in. Hey, how's it going? What's up with you? Even if I don't have a fight scheduled, I run all my fights through like 5 people. I run them through my wife first, then my coach, then one of my teammates, Colin Anglin. He's a professional fighter. And then I'll run it. If all those people say yes, then I run it through Jason. If Jason says yes, we'll do it. If not, we'll say no. So I got such like a layered, I'm not going to take any stupid fights. And Jason will watch film. He'll break down how to beat him. Like, he's not just a manager. He's had professional fights. He's a brown belt in jiu-jitsu, so he knows his stuff. So it's cool to have that guy who has that experience, And the whole team over there, not just Jason. They got Jacob over there. I probably hit that guy up twice a week for stuff. And he's like, yep, let me send it to you. Here it is. Next day, and it's just great. It's great to have that support around you and those people around me, and I think it's been huge for me.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing what is next for you, and that is December 14th, Lights Out Championship 6, fighting for your first pro title. Look forward to that. Before I let you go, Cody, thank you for the time. This is a lot of fun. I could do another hour with you, but, it's 25 minutes into this thing. I got to go up and eat pizza with my family. But before I let you go, let the folks know where to find and follow you on the web, social media, any shout-outs, anything else you want to get off your chest. The floor is yours.
Cody Brundage on Facebook. Cody Brundage MMA fighter is my athlete page, and then Cody_Brundage_ is my Instagram. That's pretty much it. Yeah, I can talk forever. I'll run my mouth, so probably let me go if you want to eat your pizza.
Good stuff, man. All the best to you. We look forward to the fight on the 14th, man.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.